We've also then got the operating system, so we've got 6 different types of laptop. If it takes 2 hours for somebody to work out how to install this open source software on each of those types of laptop, it's going to drive you nuts and cost me a fortune. So we'll see, just test out whether that's possible. The benefit eventually then is you end up with a nicely networked system where when it breaks, you ring John and he just logs in from home and fixes it. That's the dream for me. I never want to fix another computer in my life. So possibly open source software gives me the ability to afford enterprise systems that I couldn't afford somewhere. You go to university, run a Novell network, some IT department fix it when it breaks. I can't afford that. I want a cheap version in between. Then the other really interesting thing for me then is to move to low power computing. So if you run a desktop, it's got a power supply that's probably 250 watts, say. These things run at about 60 watts. If you run a thin client, which is basically a screen with a tiny little box on the back, it's like 2 watts. So you can get your computing power consumption down to, let's say, 5 watts per thing. We're trying to run Windows 7 or Vista or whatever it is on that. Isn't really going to work. It's not designed for it. So there's some extra carrots for me. And I guess for the bigger organizations to run even more carrots, if you're running 50 computers, and it's cheaper, far lower power, potentially, don't know what these guys think, far lower maintenance, lower overhead, upfront investment, ideally lower overhead. So to me, it's that upfront investment is a creative, interesting process. System admin is a boring, tedious process. As an arts organisation, we like creating new things. We hate maintaining things. So potentially, I think that's quite useful. So that was me. Any use for
These computers that run off lower watts,
yeah.
are they just an ordinary? You just have a newer model.
Well, it's effectively just a screen. They're coming from some microsystems. The guys that make Java. Anyway, they're just little boxes that you buy. They're 5 watts. Really cute. And there's this idea of this move to cloud computing. You've heard of cloud? So all that stuff you're using Google. It's all kind of cloud. The idea that you can run your whole office from Google. Google Documents, Google Calendar, Google this, Google that, Google the other. So nothing runs on your own machine. It's all on the internet somewhere. So your machine doesn't need to be clever. You just need access to all the stuff you need.
Yeah, you probably have seen netbooks advertised on the tube and stuff. This is kind of, it's not the same thing, but it goes the same direction. Your machine is pretty dumb. It doesn't need to have much stuff, and therefore these machines cost to work quick. You get a decent laptop, but it's not.
So it's got none of the stuff in it. The problem then is, of course, well, the accountant runs Sage. There isn't an open source version of Sage, accounting software. Somebody else wants to use Photoshop, CS2, CS3, this, that, the other. The question then, of course, is how, okay, your designer needs to run Quark. It's dead, isn't it? Photoshop, InDesign. But actually, for most of your stuff, probably all they're doing is resizing images. So then you can probably find an open source program, usually with a terrible name like GIMP. Why, I don't know. There you go. Yeah, that's no excuse. Bad names. So that thing of just simplifying, realizing actually, why do I have to teach all my staff to use the 3 buttons in Photoshop we actually use? It takes 2 minutes to start up. It means I have to throw the computers away every 2 years because they make it even bigger and bigger. Literally, all they need is save the web, make it square. You know, so that if those functions, so this is, I suppose, where it gets into that management consultancy type thing. What do your staff actually need to do? How many of your staff actually need capability? I suppose that's the digital strategy for.